Start recording. So now we are actually triggering a component did mount. And the component did mount, we are triggering a set time mount. So it's not really something we can control. The purpose now is to actually have a button or something that can trigger the state add. So we can alter the state when the user click button. So we can also talk about events and add event listener and stuff like that. How we do it in React. Okay? So let's remove this thing now and let's just add a button. No. Okay? And we call it click or add. Now we have a button. When I click it, nothing happens.
It needs a function.
Needs an event listener. Usually in JavaScript we say add event listener. You say get element by ID and stuff, but now we have components, we cannot do that. So what do we do? Well, as simple as doing this on click. And you give a function, like a prop. Literally like a prop. Like giving items and stuff, you say on click. And you give it a function. So let's say this dot, for example, add. Just name it add. Add console.log adding. And we have adding.
Yeah.
This is how we do events in React. Okay? Now let's say, for example, we want to add a to-do every time we call this. So we can say this.add to-do. Okay? Just instead of calling this, we call this. It's a different method. Nothing fancy. It's like instead of calling this one, the one that was here, we call this one. Instead of calling this one. Simple. Add to do. And I will put a div here. Put the list inside. Yeah, I guess I want to show something here. If just a second, sorry for interrupting. Just a second. If I will do this, it doesn't work. You know why? Because in React, every JSX, like every return, it needs to be one component. You cannot return two. If you return two, you wrap them in one component. So if you want to return this and this, you need to return a div or a span or something. Wrap them in something. It doesn't matter. But you need to do that. Or if you don't want to do that, there's a trick called the React fragment. So you can say React.fragment. It doesn't do anything. This one doesn't do anything. It only allows us to return two things. Because you can return a div here, but the div will be still present in the HTML and stuff.
Yeah.
But with fragment, it's like, it's just so I can add two things. Make sense? What? Can you just like a bit louder?
React fragment is a better choice.
He's making a lot of noise, I'm sorry. Can you repeat again?
So React fragment is a much better choice to be used.
It's a much better choice if you don't need a div or something. Because for example, if you are integrating with some libraries like jQuery or something, maybe they want to integrate with the button instead of the div, so the div would be like a problem. So React fragment, and if you see in the HTML, it literally doesn't exist. But if you go to React, well, even here it doesn't exist. So it gets stripped, literally. Okay?
So it's better to use the div container as the HTML element.
No, this is not the HTML element, it will disappear after. This one will disappear. It's only good because you cannot do this in React. You cannot return two things at the same time. Or you will find some people doing this. It's the
You
same thing
know-
as React fragment. It's only a shorthand for that. Okay? It's stupid. But this, it will be a React fragment. I don't know if really Bubble recognized that, but if we say, yeah, it's a React fragment. Yes.
That's right, because when I did it last time, I tried to make it without a div, and they will give me an error back.
Yes,
They said that
you cannot return
you
true.
don't- You have to make it in a container. One container
Yeah.
has to be rendered, and inside
Yeah, you can put a
you can
div.
put how much as you want.
You can put a div. But if you don't want to put a div and you don't want anything annoying in your HTML, just put a fragment. Make sense? This is the whole thing about fragment, nothing special. Now we can say that we have a button and we click add. So now technically when we click an add, this will trigger an add to the to-do. So we don't need this one. This will trigger an add to the to-do. And we will have another to do when we click the button. It should work this way. We have a huge error. Cannot, if you go to the code,
Cannot read property state.
it's because of this dot state. State, this is undefined. Why? Let's remember the rules about binding last time. Who's calling my add to do?
They're render.
No. Who's calling? Render is not
Button.
the button. So the button is calling my add to do.
Yeah.
So it's not me. So I cannot say that this here point to the state. Before I was calling it, before I was saying like this dot add to do, and literally call it myself. So I know that the this points. But in this case, we don't know. So the this, if we say console.log this, it's undefined. Okay? So there is two ways to solve this. Either we bind this component to this class. We do the way you did it. You said it before. So we can say this dot add to do. This dot bound add to do equal this dot add to do dot bind this.
In the front.
So now we are creating another function
Take the div to give
and control the this and say the this inside this function, because bind returns another function. Or we can use a row function. That's the second solution. So it's either we use this and we bind, or we can replace it. We can say add to do. Means the old add to do will be replaced by the new to do. Add to do. Is this a bit confusing?
Is that possible to pass an event in add to do?
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be passed actually here in event.
Yeah.
So text is not text, it's an event.
that the click.
Yeah. It's an event. Because it's a click handler. But do you get this line, what it's doing? This line will return a new function. So this will edit, it will return a new function. And that function the this inside it will be always pointing to this class, which is here. Okay? And we just reassign it to the first one. Is it a bit annoying? No, not annoying in the sense like it's like, oh, why? So let's-
They write this
Yeah, go ahead.
back to the constructor. Yes, this. They write this.
This one.
Refer to what? Refer to.
All the this inside refer to this class. Everything inside returns to this
Okay,
class.
so what does the role of the bind?
The role of the bind means like we will control this function. So anyone who calls this function, that this will be always this class. It doesn't matter who's gonna call it. It will be always this class. So if you have, for example, like function, let's say you have function do, or you have an object. Object function, or we say d equal function, and that function will console.log. It will console.log this. So if we say object dot d, it will return the object. It will console.log the object because the this point to the object. That's clear.
Meaning that one method can call all of the object.
What do you mean?
It's the method of the object that called all of the objects. It means when you write this one,
It just called d. So I can say, for example, like show.
oh, it should
It only console.log the object. But for example, if I will do this, if I will do set timeout after 1 second, object.show. I'm not calling it, I'm passing it. It will print window. And I would say if I will use strict to still window because it's not global scope, I think. Yeah, but anyways, you get the idea now. For example, that when we do this, this will not point to the user. It will point to something. Something. We care either about its user or not. Anything else is wrong. It should be user. If it prints window or not window, it's wrong. Why? Because I'm not calling the function.
I'm not finding.
It's the set timeout that's calling the function. And it's the same thing with the input. When you do it with the input, it's not you calling the function. It's like when you click the button will call your function. Okay? So this will change. So a solution could be like, so you can say like const bind, or say bounded equal this, no, sorry, equal object dot show dot bind, and we bind it to the object. And our object here, it's called object. This will return a new function called bounded. So bind will return another function. Yeah, it's binding. It's not because of you. This is really a famous
The
JavaScript.
problem is to know what bind do. We have to
Bind will make another function that always points the this to the object that you pass here. So now bounded, you call it how many times? It will always point to this one that you passed here. Yes. So you can fix it. You can fix the this. This is what we are doing. We are fixing the this of this ought to do to this class, which is the this.
So that's why the to do, you change it to an event. You put event as the part.
Here?
Like line
13. This one. It's not about the event, but it's about the this. Now if we console.log this,
we use the last to do.
it's literally the class. It's the class. But before, if we remove this line, it will be undefined. That's a solution called binding. But most of the developers now, they are using another solution, which is like involving arrow functions. So instead of doing this, you can have like kind of a variable, kind of a property called add_to_do, and you say equal, and you assign it to an arrow function.
But it no, I think in ES6 this is not really taken by the arrow function. It will give you an error.
I don't understand.
That the arrow function doesn't take this.
No, you cannot bind. You can bind an arrow function, but so
You can bind using the art.
you can bind it, but it doesn't work. It will not be binded. It will ignore you. At least I remember that's the behavior. So without really complication, if you do this, the arrow function will always follow the to do. So the this inside the arrow function will not change ever. Why? Because this is how arrow. So the difference between functions and arrow functions is in the binding. So arrow functions will be fixed to where it's defined. You define it here inside the class. That this inside me will always follow the class. But a function depends where you call it. That's the difference. So a function is more confusing because it can change the this all the time. But the arrow function never changes the this.
But our function only doesn't take this.
I mean, that's what I was looking for last time. And
Because I know for an arrow function to take the this keyword, you need to attach an art in front of whatever's in your dictionary.
No, you can do this. Like it's fine.
so if you click on the button, it will give you.
It will give you the class. So the rule that you need to retain, arrow functions only follows where they are defined. Where this arrow? Please follow with me. You're all follow with me, please.
Sorry.
Please follow with me.
Yes.
This is really important
Yes.
because you will have a lot of errors because of this. Arrow function.
Yeah.
Where you put it, it will inherit the this from them. So in this case, we put it inside the class. It will inherit this from the class, and it will never change.
So it's better to use the error function.
It's not better. It depends. If you want the this to be dynamic from class to class, use the maybe you want a feature. You want who's calling the function to define the this. But if you want the this to be fixed, use an arrow function.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter for you, use an arrow function. But if so, only use functions if it really matters. If the binding matters for you. This is how you should understand. Because the
now we don't.
no, we don't need binding now.
Oh, okay.
In this case,
Arrow function do it for us.
Yeah, arrow function will stick to one.
Yes, yeah, okay.
And it's like, I will never change. But function is like, it's dynamic. You call it here, you call it there, it will change. I don't know if you have better explanation, Christopher, or I don't know.
Okay. What I would like to return, I have to think actually, otherwise I will be trapped. Can you give us an example that that will just distinguish, like an example that is highly suitable to create a function instead of a raw function? Can you give us an example? Like here in this case, this add to do is highly required this state, like the component state. Can you give us an example that this doesn't even require? I don't know, is this little bit,
this doesn't even require.
yeah. Like can you give us an example, like both a raw function or a simple function? That's the thing. I don't know whether it is too much complicated for you. Yeah, let's say, like for example, a print method. Does that really, for example, if I consider that a print method doesn't need this state or whatever, so then we can use. I'm just telling you the answer actually, because asking question is a little bit complicated in this case. Like here, for example, this print, I'm just trying to print a hello, and I don't even care that what is this, like, or this component. Then actually it's good to create a function, normal function. But think like I click something and it would somehow update this state and everything. Then we need this of this component actually. So many this. I don't know whether you are following. Then it will be a good idea to create a raw function. Yeah.
Okay, because whenever you click, the default that the click will change update your page.
Yeah, we are using the this inside it.
Huh?
We are referring to the class. We did this.
Yes, because for the reason you're using the arrow function, in this case we should suggest to use the arrow function because we will never change the mechanic function of that click button and refresh.
We can change it, but we can change it. But as long as I'm expecting the this to refer to this class, I'm good.
Yeah,
As long as I don't refer to another this, I'm good. I'm fixed to this. This is the only problem with arrow functions, and that's not a problem for us because we are inside the class. The this only refers to the class. But for example, as you said in the print, for example, we don't care if the this is pointing to hello or this. I'm just printing hello. I don't care about the this here. But here I care about the this. So I have two solutions. Either I bind it here with the this and bind and stuff, or use an arrow function. Up to you. Okay? Is it clear a bit?
Yeah.
Now we are using arrow functions and stuff. But of course it needs a lot of practicing. You need to practice and stuff. Let's go ahead. So now let's add hello.
now we can create some
Excuse me,
new Java.
in the line, sorry, back to in the line 12, do we need the E there? We don't.
Event, if
Yeah.
they-
We don't need it.
Yeah, we don't need it.
So now if we add to do, it will be, we can add to do's.
Go back to the code.
Because every time we are clicking the button, we run this. And this will create a new to do set state. Create a new to do set state every time you click the button.
So what is hello now?
What?
How we add hello and you don't have hello?
Because you-
This-
Okay. Oh, I didn't see it. I was looking for it.
No, it's-
What is it?
That should become low.
yeah. Okay. So we can do something else. We can actually have an input, and wherever you type there, we add it as a to do instead of adding hello every time. That would be more realistic.
Like you write something, you push the button, and it.
Precisely.
It adds it to the array.
What?
And it adds it to the array.
Yeah. It's like instead of adding the dummy hello.
Are you recording?
No, I'm not. I'm not recording. I'm not. I'm sorry. Yes, I am. So I will create an input here. And I will have an input here. I will put a placeholder. Type something to do. And I have it. Now, every time you click the button, I want to be able to take the text that it's inside the to do
The value there?
and add it here.
Okay.
How I can do that? Well, believe me, it's kind of impossible to do. The way you do it with React, it's impossible. I will show you like a
You will add a value here in the input.
value.
Yeah, you add a value.
No, it's not.
It's
Yeah, but that's half of the puzzle. But we want to understand what we are doing. Because you need to add a value and on change. So I will go to the table and just try to explain. Where is the yeah.
Look if it you can.
I don't need to do anything. So we have an input, okay? And this is the okay. This is an input. So whenever you type something on the input will change. Okay? This is the mechanic of the input. But we are not doing anything. It's not us who built the input. It's built by someone. We only declare the input and we have it in the browser. So this is provided by the browser. But if you really think inside how the input works, the input is kind of waiting for you to type. So there is an event, keyboard event, and after that, every time you type, it will take the old value, append to it the character. You type, append the character. You type, append the character.
It means the state is changed?
No, forget about the state. I'm not mentioning React now.
Okay.
I'm said input is not using React inside. The browser is not using React inside.
Oh.
Okay? Is this Kind of clear? So we are waiting for the keys. Every time you type something, we add it, type, you add it. If you delete, you keep removing. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So we say that this is kind of a controlled component. This is a component that it's handling its own stuff. That means that we don't really interfere on how the component works. The component works, just works. We don't need to pass anything. The component, it's controlling itself. It's listening for the stuff and adding things. This doesn't really suit us a lot in React, because if one of the patterns why React was invented, because we don't want to keep the DOM or the browser, keep the data inside the browser. For example, now the source of truth, or who's like holding the value, it's the input. Okay, so the input is controlling me because the input holds the value, and this is kind of not wrong, but just it doesn't really scale really well when you have really huge applications, because you have input there, get element by ID, you get the input, you get the value from it. It gets really complex. So we like to propose another pattern called controlled component. What does it mean to have a controlled component? It means you can control the components, literally in English. So what we do, this component give us something, or we give a value to the component,
Yeah.
and we give it on change.
Yes.
We give it a value and on change to the component. Okay? Let's try to do that. Let's try with the value. We say hello. It will be hello here, but I cannot type. Why? Because the value is fixed. So I need to have a dynamic variable here, okay, and supply it for the value. And the onChange handler, it's a handler on the input that every time I type,
Change the value.
it will call my handler, and we change this value, and this value will be submitted here.
The handler is the function.
It's a function,
Function.
and this function will replace this variable.
Exactly.
Is it clear a bit? So now we are controlling the component. The component is only saying I changed, and we get the value. We give it a new value. So every time, a way to do this is using state, because every time you type, we want a new value, and we want the input to re-render with the new value. It's like the counter and stuff, but this time is the input. Okay, so we can put this inside the state. So we can say, we can, for example, like input value. We can initialize it with an empty string, and here we can say this dot input, this dot state dot input value. So we pass value. So value will be equal to this dot state dot input value. And whenever on change fire, we say set state. With the new value that was passed to here. Is this a bit confusing?
It's a bit clear, so. Nah, don't worry.
This is really just theoretic, like just trying to get you to the point, what we are doing. So just get it as like, we hold the value and we pass it to the input. And the input will say to us, I changed, I update this value and give it to the input back. But the input doesn't really change. We are changing our value. So instead of having a control component that is handling everything itself, now we get the control.
Yeah, so input value becomes kind of the repository of all the.
Precisely. It will become the state of that input. It will hold the input. So now if we want to get this value from this, we don't need to go to the input. We just say this dot input value holds the value here. So we forget that we have an input.
So you can just call the input value and.
Yeah, so we forget that we have an input. We don't need to think in terms of DOM and inputs. It's like, I don't care. I don't need get element by ID or anything. I have the value. And the way to do it here, so let's initialize the state here. Let's call it
Input function.
input text, for example, I don't know. Let's say initialize it with empty string, because usually an input is an empty string.
Or maybe just type something to do.
Well,
Oh,
no, not yet. So now we can, now instead of saying hello, we say this dot state. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're passing a value, but now it will be static. We cannot change it.
Unchanged.
Yeah. So we need the on change. An on change is it's a function. Let's say change. Let's say to do text handler, and we say this because it's inside the class.
Excuse me, you shouldn't put the input text on the this dot state there.
What?
What?
On line 20, you use this dot state dot input text.
Yes.
Now you shouldn't put in the line 7.
No, you're initializing.
That's.
It's
You mean this one?
It's
Yeah.
inside the
Yeah.
construct.
You're accessing the object.
Okay, okay, you are okay.
I'm just getting this value.
Yeah.
I'm getting this value here,
Yes.
and this dot state. Okay.
Now
So-
we should define to do text handler.
Yeah. So we say to do
Function, yeah.
is the function, and we use arrow functions, so we can avoid the problems
Yeah.
coming with the, and we can just say console.log typed, just typed.
So whatever you write,
We are just console.log.
okay.
We are console.log typed. So now whenever you type, it's here, but it's not updating. So now we want to get, every time you type, we want to get the value that you typed. And usually we have an event here. And how we access the value, remember jQuery and how we access the value of an input. We say event.target dot
value.
value, precisely. So we say e.target.value. We get the target of the event, which is, so we have an event that it's a keyboard change or keyboard event, and it has a target who triggered the event, which is the input. So we get it with event the target, and we have the value inside it. So now every time I type, I can see here what I'm typing. But it's only one character, because every time it's a new character, because I'm not updating the old one. So what I can do now is store this inside the value. So I say const typed text, and we can say this dot set state, and say just input text is type text. And now I can type.
Back to the question. This one.
We are getting the value from the input, updating the state with the new value.
Okay. Update the state.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
because
this,
now the state before the state was empty string,
Yes.
and we stayed empty string.
So this is
until we
em-
set it.
yeah. So this is an empty string, and we update it every time you type. You see the relation here? This is what's happening. What we can do more is, yeah. So if we go to React here, and I go to the input,
The value over there.
you can see value here. Can you observe value here?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you are writing,
Can you see it?
yeah.
So every time this is the state. No, this is props. Yeah, this is the props. So this is my state. I have to-dos, array, and I have input text. This is my state. You can see. It's empty because I initialize it with empty string. So now if I will type something, look at the state.
State change.
This is what's happening. Every time you type something, we change the state and we give the value back to the input. And we change again, and it's like a cycle. Is this clear?
No.
No questions? So
The concept hello, do we really need the word hello?
yeah. So now when you add, we don't want to add dummy hello. When you add, we want to say this dot state dot input text. So when you click, we get the text from the input and add it, or we get the text from the state. So if we say now text or any add, it will be added here.
So if you didn't update that one, so you will always have the hello.
Yeah.
But go back to the. Let me see.
Like everything is manual. You need to plug yourself everything. This is powerful, and at the same time, it's
Could you go to the code again? Oh, okay. So you did new chose the state input text. So when you click,
Yeah.
it run. Okay.
yeah. We can use this structuring and say to dos and input text equal this dot state.
What was that method with the const? What was the thing that you said that you can use?
What do you mean?
When you type the const, you say something like,
Destructuring. We want to destructure.
oh,
Remember? So instead of saying this dot state dot something, this we can just destructure.
destructor?
Yeah, it's like destruct. It's like really destructuring.
Like the constructor of
Yeah, I
the
thought
Destructure,
it-
exactly.
I don't like
It's
destructure.
literally English. Yes.
Okay, destructor.
So
Now I got it.
Taking pieces. The structure is
any questions?
chopping pieces.
That's it.
Or we can move on. So now every time I type and I add, I want to clear the input, let's say. It's annoying to have the text because I've already added. How I can do that?
So you need to add the new button.
No, no, I want when I click the button add,
Yeah, it does.
to add the text here and clear it.
Yeah,
So
when you add it,
Clear what?
clear this text
Clear
here.
the text.
So the input will be like,
Oh, okay.
Empty
Again.
Okay.
yeah,
I think
you
it
call.
should be the, after render we have did mount after render. We have did mount, so we
No,
should
refer
do
to
this
the
one.
input.
no, no,
Text.
but I want to do it not when the component disappear. It's when I click the button.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
You call.
When I click the button, I add it here, I delete it here.
Okay. Referring to the
So-
input
so-
text.
What?
Referring to the input text.
Refer? What?
Refer it here.
What? Yeah. What's the idea?
After when person the right and they push the button.
No, you can add
to
the
do-
if.
Yes, after that you should
Value.
Make the status empty.
As empty back. We want to make the state as empty back. How we will do that?
I said if you can make.
How we can change the state?
By the event or the click.
How we change the state? No, how we change the React state?
Did that state.
The set state.
the
Huh?
status there.
This dot set state.
Yeah.
Look, it's like it's on the top.
Yeah.
So we want to do here say this dot set state
It takes the-
and pass an object and say
Input text.
Input text.
input text.
The first
But
one.
if
Okay.
the event of the click, then it says otherwise it's like you're doing. Okay, no, because I thought that.
I'm like I'm waiting for you to
No,
say
no,
something.
I got it now that I said to do that concat. So it got on the list, so it doesn't care about the other.
Yeah, we in a state we have several things. First, yes, Yunus. We in a state we have several things. To do,
Yeah,
text, or
we
maybe
add to
more
do
than
with a
50,
little text.
and we can change each of them in
Yes.
every time.
So now every time I type hello, I add it disappears from here.
Okay.
But why having two set states? We can actually put this here next to it. We can group set state to one because it's an object. So I can just update that object straight away.
You know what I thought before, that the input text will affect even the one that you send to the
Oh.
lead, but it doesn't because it's stored in a new variable.
That's jQuery. When you do jQuery, everything will get messed up.
Creating React is very intelligent.
It's really cool because it's much
Simple.
compact and simple.
Yeah, exactly. So now, for example, I'm taking the text from the screen and adding text without any get element by ID. Without, I can literally copy this and put it in Node.js and it will work. It's normal JavaScript. That's really powerful.
No, don't
Actually,
manipulate.
in the background, there is get the element document.get element.
Yeah, in the background there
In the
is.
background there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a lot of them.
Yeah.
When you say on click, it's a click handler.
Okay. Yeah. You're right.
Because if you copy it on Bubble, you see a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's not really a bubble, but React. When you say render, React will do all the stuff. Convert. So this is called reconciliation, as we said before. So React will construct a tree of all the stuff. Like so yeah. Now we have state, so we can actually talk about that. Can we
Please.
Yes.
That's what I was talking about.
Now I know what's this.
Now it's magic.
I think you use the
No, it's
tissue.
better if you use this one.
You can do it yourself.
But I think we need a real marker actually.
So now, for example, we have the app. We have the app. It's rendering lifecycle component. You remember it? And it's rendering the to-dos component, and the to-dos is rendering list, and it's rendering button, and it's rendering input. This is what's happening. Okay? This is from React perspective. React after that will convert this to div something. We'll convert it to real thing. And this is why we call render, so we can convert this. Oh, thank you a lot.
And it's the real one. So
Thank you a lot. Now we are real people. Okay? So this is the first time. The first time when you say render, React will build this and flush it to the DOM. Means like write it to the DOM. Okay? Now React will do this.
Let's render.
For last time.
Yeah, so I can say this. React will literally do this. For example, when the component will update, React will do this, delete the old stuff, and let's say the list here had two to-dos, two lists. Sorry, two to-dos. Yeah. So now you are the third. React will add it here, and after that React will see the difference. So before we had this. This is what we had before in the DOM, in the real browser. 2 items. Now we have 3 items because of set state. So React needs to add 3 items. So React will see the difference. It will compute the difference between these two. It's the same. Oh, this one, we add a new item. And React will not actually do this all. React will just go to the browser and say, keep everything. We only added someone here. So this is what React is doing. So every time you are changing, React will recompute everything. It will re-render everything. But it will not say to the browser, re-render everything. It will compare to the old React and say, we added something here, we deleted something here. It's like the input. When you are saying set state, the whole thing is re-rendering. But in the browser, no. It's only React rendering everything and saying, what's the difference between this one and this one? There's no difference. This one and this one, there's no difference. This one and this one, there's no difference. Only here there's difference and in the input. So we go to the browser, we change only this one and this one. So React is smart about figuring out what just changed. This is the whole idea about like reconciliation.
In Facebook, when we write a comment and at the comment, nothing going to be changed, just the comment.
React behind the scene literally changed everything.
Yeah.
But after that, React will be smart. React will change everything so it can compute. But after that, React will say, okay, so compared to the last time, only this stuff changed. So I will not update everything in the browser. I will only update what changed. It's called diffing, like making the difference, computing differences. Yeah, this one is much better. Thank you for that. This one is much better. We have a lot of trash here. Shit. Is it clear? Any questions? About state, about stuff? So if you think about something, when you pass an object to the to-dos, like before, only the to-dos was changed. So this one was not changing. It's like when you type hello and you add, okay, now because we didn't save, yeah. So not say hello and you add, this will not change because we are not overriding it here. So by default, when you pass something here to the set state, it will be merged with this one. It will not replace everything. So it will see that to-dos, okay, I will replace only to-dos, but I will not touch this. Okay? It's like it will merge the results.
Some part of
So if we will have a lot of stuff here, to-dos will only update what you give here as a key. Make sense?
So it means that we're creating new element there as well. Am I right?
No.
No?
Yes, because
So for example, so that in the state we have to-dos and input text, and I'd like to set state with like input text 2 with some value. Is that possible?
What you wanna?
So just go look into the constructor.
Yeah.
This state equals to do something, input text something,
Yeah.
and now look into this add to do.
Yeah.
Where we set state to do new to do's. Now I would like to add another element or property in a more precise way, comma, for example, then input text 2 equals a text. Can you do that?
What he's saying is doing, I'm sorry, I cannot keep
Yeah.
adding it to, for example, to hello.
I don't think you can.
Yeah. What you're doing here is adding a new K on the state that you're creating.
Precisely.
You mean you want to make another state?
But but is it possible? First of all, yes or no?
No, it's not
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, it's
Okay,
possible.
who are yes?
Yeah, it's possible.
Possible.
No, it's not possible.
And you are saying no, so it's 50-50.
It shouldn't be.
I can give my
I say,
motivation.
but it shouldn't.
Okay, let's come up with those people who say no, it's not possible. Anyone can say. Okay.
Because it's just life cycle of the component, and in the beginning you create a state, and you can't make another state. Just you can change the state.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it should be like that.
That's you are right, but in the life cycle, what we do is only initializing the state, but we don't lock the state to a specific schema. We say that I will have first name and last name, but that doesn't mean that I cannot add anything more. It's an object. I can do whatever I do with the object.
Okay.
Okay. So this one is just helpful. I can, for example, do this and add it after dynamically.
Because that state is not just modifying
State,
your
yeah, exactly.
current
State is only modifying the.
So
even
every
editing.
time we can define
Yeah, for example, this one here,
object, for example.
I can define a lot of shit.
Here you
Yeah.
define.
and you know
I can say, for example,
It's not necessary to define. When
We can say
set,
X-
set a state, it's created and updated.
we can say mat.random. I will have a computed property here. So we go to state. You can see the state here.
Yeah.
Hello. There's a random key.
Yeah.
Hello 2. And I'm adding randoms.
Now, can you see the power?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, you
I
can
feel the
keep
power, man.
you can keep the original file in a this state, and in the other parts you can.
You are the
you
boss.
can- yeah.
So it's your decision to do what. So yeah.
You can pass the because I saw on the YouTube. You can pass the JSON file
Angular is
there,
not
and
like
you can change
So
here
that's
whatever.
Angular isn't it?
So I just add a new dimension
It's
to the
different.
frame.
It's different.
So it's always the set state that
Clear?
is in the
So remember, state it's just an object. You can do whatever you do an object. Here we have an array inside it, and we add to an array, but we can do whatever we like.
So therefore, this that state on line number 7 depends on the situation that you had stated in line 16.
Yeah.
And the set state. Alright.
I can do something else.
Yeah.
We can make a delete button.
Oh, sure.
We can delete. She's so excited. Like yes, finally a delete. Finally, we want to delete. No, but yeah, we can make a delete button and delete the. First of all, I need to figure out the design.
Yeah.
So inside every so if I will say hello here, inside it I will have a button,
Yes. Okay.
and that button is
Delete, you will delete your delete.
yes, it's just an X, and when you so for every so for every item we will have a button.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go here, and the items are listed here. So for every item here, instead of just listing the text,
Yeah.
we will have button. Okay,
Yes.
and it's just X.
Yeah. If you want to be.
You have to
in
do.
front of it,
Is it a UL?
if you are, then.
Oh, I'm doing something really wrong here.
To do
It's
an
it's here.
Yeah.
It should be here.
Yeah.
It should be in the item here outside. So now we have.
Okay.
So every time I click this,
Yeah.
I need to delete that to do.
The same.
So you need to make it the same function for that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, can anyone tell us, like, what would be the solution? Just out of anything.
What the delete means?
Yeah, like for example, I click that, and how many pieces of code we need to write? Like how many lines of code we need to write?
And compare it to the add. In the add, we have something. We grab the to do from the state. We add it to it, and we set state.
Yeah,
Is the delete? Can you imagine?
yeah, just process for a
Yeah.
few seconds.
Okay.
Like what to do? Just keep silent and just think.
You don't have time.
I'm just using your brain so that there's nothing that you
Where
need.
is set state and move?
Can someone just explain step by step, like what are the steps we need to do?
What does it mean?
Or-
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
On click of that X, we have to get the target value
Okay.
and
Why we need the target value?
Okay. Just keep.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
because it is
Tell whatever you
Yeah,
want.
tell. You don't need to
Just
argue.
tell. Yeah. No need to argue.
yeah,
Yeah. Then.
it's a target value, then we need to clear the state value, the input text.
But we don't want to delete everything. We want to delete. So we have an array. We want to delete something inside the array.
Do you understand what's the problem of that idea? First of all, what she said that if we click,
yeah,
we would like to remove the state.
Like,
State will- yeah.
But we want to remove only one thing. Remember this.
So
Splice the
No,
That's idea number two.
Just tell me in English.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about splice and splice.
Okay. What is idea number two?
Maybe on click you have to delete and then we have to find the index of the item that you want to delete.
Okay. Can anyone?
Yeah, well,
Put a comment on
my
that.
idea is we have this button that's related to that item. You know, when you push the button, you know, it's automatically related to the index of that item. So when you push the button, the value is related to the index of that array. So it's automatically related.
I have an
Because we are creating here is a map for each value create the same button. Okay, so when you create that, when you push that button, the value is related to the index that where are you now. So you know what I'm saying? Could I write it down a little bit?
That's okay. It's nothing something that you need to be more specific. Because the whole idea is to just use your brain cells.
I think we have something in a key.
Yeah, the key ID.
The key ID.
The
So
key
this
is ID.
key is necessary to recognize the component. So with this key,
Components.
yeah, because now Li is a component
We're deleting the list.
and it has a key, so we can recognize this key and use this key for deleting.
But it's
You should,
related.
you should give the same key to the button.
No, it's
But it's
not.
related to the same list.
Okay, we got
Doesn't matter.
so many ideas.
No, but every element of list has one key. a
Yeah, but the
specific key.
button is inside that list.
It's
So
Okay, let's
The
see.
button is inside.
let's follow the ideas without really going concrete code. Let's just take an idea from here, idea
So
from
when
here.
we add a list, it has automatically it would have a unique key, right? So if we say we delete something,
That's-
then we can
Okay, I
use that
understand.
key.
But now we would like to write some code.
Let's write some code without really doing it, but just like so we can figure it out a bit. So
Just crash this application.
basically,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Let's crash it. Basically, what we want is like when you click on this button, this X,
No. What is the first thing you need to do?
This
You
item.
don't on
This
click.
that item.
delete this item. It's a function called delete this item.
No.
What does this function what does this function will delete the item? What does it mean to delete the item?
To splice it, to take it up from the
Don't
item.
talk about JavaScript. English, plain English. Don't use
to
any
take
method.
it up from the array.
So you mean that we have an array
Yeah.
and we take that thing from it?
Yeah. The
And we said
specific index, the specific index.
Specific
of that,
index.
Of that.
Specific which is next to that the targeted value.
I don't understand.
If it is x, the next to that target.
What do you mean by yeah, it's that, but concretely, how we can actually do it?
Delete this item when you. It
Yeah.
depends on the on click. It waits on the on click on which item was being clicked.
Okay,
on the X.
so
that actually had a specific ID
but from where we can get so
from the value that is generated.
Can we-
after the on click.
can so you just to define some ideas. Yeah, I agree with you to define that.
You do.
So wait, just a second. So we need to delete something from the array inside the to-dos.
Yeah, you do.
This is
delete
the idea.
Delete
Yeah.
that. Look, delete this item square. I mean, around the square this. So it's related to the same value. What is the button is?
Well,
I would
it's-
like to do it like this.
Yeah, but it's
I would do it like
that's really implicit. You need to have like specific text. So let's just go. What you are saying is right. This is exactly what we're doing. We get the context from the button, and we go to the parent component. We say give me the array and so. So this delete me needs to be here in the to-dos. So we say const. Delete this item. It's a function. Okay? That's a minimum thing that we can do. So this function needs to be used here. Okay?
Do you understand what he did? Who can explain?
What?
Why I'm creating the function in the to-dos?
Because to do is what you call this list component.
Because to-dos is controlling the state.
The state
I cannot put it here. List doesn't have anything about the state. So it needs to be in to-dos. It's like this one. This one is listing the items, but it doesn't have anything about the items. Okay? So if I will delete an item inside the to-dos, this will be updated and receive only the new items. You get the idea?
Do you understand? Any question?
No, explain again. I didn't understand.
What I'm saying is this component only receive items.
Okay.
So if I want to delete items, I cannot delete it here or add it here. I delete and add items here in the to-do. I only pass the result here.
Where you add it, also you can delete it.
Yeah, exactly. So I can add and delete here, not in the list. List is only printing stuff.
Okay, have you ever seen a picture, a man or the woman actually sit on a branch of a tree and he or she is trying to cut the branch of that tree? Have you seen that image?
I said.
Yeah. So we are already sitting on that branch, and do you agree to cut that branch actually? So here is the place where you need to put your function, define your function actually. No?
So this component needs to have access to the delete. So we want to pass to list this function. How we can do that? How we can pass stuff from component to other components? With props. Props are used what? To what? To pass
take
stuff from components to other components. So for example, items is passed to list through props. Is this clear? No, but is it clear that I can pass a value to a component through props?
No.
So I can say, for example, x equal 4 here, and inside the list I can say this.props.x.
Can you make it
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
because it's very okay.
And the properties of
Yeah.
will be passed to this.
Well, the question was like how you transfer data from one component to another component. What is the answer?
So you can.
It's props using this prop.
You
Using
can
props.
property
Pro-
of the
prop-
property.
prop-
Yeah, it's by using props. That's the answer. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, so we can pass x here, we can pass a lot of stuff. We can also pass a function. Like for example, the onClick. We are passing our function here to the button. We can do the same. Pass delete this item, and we say delete this item. Say delete to do. And we say this dot delete to do. Is it clear until now? We pass the function to a component. Like here, we are passing a function to the onClick. So simply, we call it delete this item. Simply, here, const delete this item is this dot props dot delete this item.
Yeah.
If we console log this, it's a function, but it's empty. But it's a function. Why it's a function? Because it's coming from this prop, and this prop is passed here by the to-dos.
And then we go to the delete to do. So
Yes, and this is just a reference to this function. Is this kind of clear? Because I can pass objects, I can pass arrays, I can pass anything as prop.
Okay, so argument function also. is
Yeah, like for set timeout. Set timeouts take a function and a number. Whatever. They are citizens, like other class and object. They are equal citizens. No, seriously, this is called like functions are first class citizens. They are not treated like specially. So a function is like a number, you can pass it. Okay? So here we will say console.log hello from to-dos. So when you click this one, we will just fire this handler. Okay? So if we click this one, it will print hello from to-dos. Why?
because you
Because there is a function here that it's passed here, and we get it here from the props. Yes. We give it to the button, and the button will fire it once we click. Is this clear?
Yeah.
For everyone? Is it clear? Sure? Is it clear?
It's clear, but I have to study it again.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you need to practice it. Like it's we are trying to share knowledge with you, but at the end, like if I will teach you something, that doesn't mean that I'm really teaching you. It's really you who decide if you will get it or something or not.
It's very nice because we got to see the process and things.
Yeah, we still have 3 more weeks.
And
We will
that
do
is-
so
that
many
is
stuff.
very important, like the way you think, the way you process.
Exactly.
The
No,
way
no,
you
It can, it
what
can
I wanted
recognize
to say,
this,
just
delete
wanted to
this
say.
item because we pass it as a
Precisely.
class.
It's like we are passing items, and we are passing delete this item. Items is an array, and delete this item is a function.
Just I have a question. For example, you have 2 components. You use this component and this component.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a child of it.
You can send data or function from the main component to the subcomponent.
You can, yeah.
And also from subcomponent to
You
main
can keep
component.
going. No, it's only one way. It's called one data flow. It's like one way. So you the parent give to the child, but the child doesn't give to the parent.
Because otherwise,
Okay, now this header.
Schlep.
Okay, this header is parent.
No. To-dos is the parent. Okay, I will just grab this this list and put
I
it
think
there.
the name is confusing, like the header
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I will put it here.
it's like callback, I think. I mean, because when you have this function, call it this with this argument
Yeah.
and passing this. So
We have it here. We have a list, and we have to-dos. So to-dos is rendering list. So it's a child of it.
what?
This is a child of this one, of to-dos.
Yeah.
What? To-dos is the parent, list is his child. Why? Because to-dos is rendering list.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think.
Cool.
Now I take.
Yeah. Take your
But
time.
you know,
take your time.
Honestly, you
Wednesday
explained
all of
perfectly.
person.
Thank you.
Really.
But
But I need to.
You know, your mind needs processing.
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you. I'm not saying that now you should tell me that it's perfect. But I'm just saying, am I clear? Is there any words that is not clear? This is what I'm trying. I'm trying to be as clear as possible. But you getting it, you will not get it in like 1 hour. Like this is concepts that you need. I've been working with Riyadh for 2 years or something. So it's natural for me. But for you, it's like, I was also, like I remember literally, I went to this page once. I remember they didn't change this page. It was like this way 2 years ago. And I was like, what's this? What's this? They were telling me, like, I was in the university and they were telling me, it's cool. Like, what's this? And it's like, I would just use jQuery. Seriously. And now I'm working with it. So it's like, you grab a library, you practice, and you learn it. There's nothing special. But the whole thing is just the concept. Clear? We have list and we have a component that is rendering list and passing to it delete this item. So the list delete this item is picked up here from the props. It's like props, parent child. The parent pass child to the prop. Okay? And now every time we click, we are running the function. The function is saying hello.
But we can change the function, the body of the function. Right?
To do some stuff, some cool stuff. Yes. Before that, this component, does it know? So I want to delete the to-do. This component, does it know which to-do to delete? We don't know. Because you called me with delete, but is this, so let's say hello, is this calling me or this one is calling me? Because we only have one of these. So the child need to pass me something. So let's say text.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So now here.
So we can say console.log text. And now when I got called here,
We need that.
we
Yeah,
need
I
that.
can-
Someone needs to call me. And we can easily do like this. We can say, we can put it here. we can just put in a raw function straight away here. Delete this item
This.
with literally item.
Okay.
Not this. This doesn't mean anything. This is a class. I don't want to delete a class. I want to delete a specific text.
But this is not called now in this special.
This inside this class means this class. But I want which text to delete.
You know, because I confuse myself every time when you use HTML, you know, and you do on the input and the input button, and you say when you on click call this function div, it means that element.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean
I know.
the class.
I know it means an HTML element.
Yeah,
But
that element
but
when
that's
you
out.
do.
But that's you are doing jQuery, not us. That's you. You are the problem. You confuse yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But no. But it's really important to actually split your mind, because doing it, for example, in jQuery, to get the input text, you will not say this dot state input text. You say get element by ID, and you say dot target dot value and stuff. But this is another way of thinking. As he said, what's really important is really thinking and thinking about it. Okay. So now we have the text here.
Yes. Why we need arrow function to come? Yes.
Because I need to call this function with an item. I cannot just put it here. I cannot just put it here. I need to call it, and I cannot call it like this, because if I will call it like this, it will be called immediately. If I will say
It doesn't take the item.
it will be called immediately. Look, undefined straight away.
Okay.
And every time I type something, it will be called 155 because I'm calling it straight away. But I want to call this function when we click the button. So I pass a function here.
So there is any way to do the add event listener or something, or React? You don't do that.
You can do that, but I would say you would be retarded to do
Yeah,
that.
that would be so stupid.
That would be so stupid. Going from this clean way to grabbing elements and like imagine like now if we have like now we have kind of huge, not huge, but I can render a lot of stuff here. I don't really care about the other stuff. I only care about this component.
Because basically these are your like equivalent to event handlers here, because they're all types of event, like on change, on click, on
Yeah, on for example
whatever.
on mouse enter,
Yeah. Then
on
you
mount
can have
mouse
another handler.
leave.
Okay.
Can you please again explain about function inside on click?
You mean this one?
Yes.
You mean calling it or what, how we are passing it?
Uh,
How we are passing it or calling it? Which one? Okay, so let's get back a bit. So I defined the function here called delete to do. Okay, inside this class. I rendered this component. I pass to it items, which is an array, and I pass to it this function. It's called this.delete to do, which is this function. Okay? So this component list will receive a props called delete this item. We save it in a variable.
yes.
And now we can call it once you click the button. And we give to it the item.
And the item will be consoled.
So the item will be consoled. So if we say, let's say add something, if we to do one, so based on which one I click, it will show it. Because I'm calling it with its own text.
The issue is just the variables for that. I think the issue is just with the variables, delete this item and delete this item over there.
I don't really like that, because when you kind of like consider the variable, so when you understand just because of the variables, that's kind of bad. You should not really, you should separate the names from the functionality. It doesn't matter how you call the parameter. Call it the way you like it, because that will not change the functionality. So we have text here. Okay. What we can do, just give me 10 minutes from your time, please. If you have just 10 minutes. So what we can do here is we can filter. Remember filter?
Yeah.
Take all the elements except this one. So we can say const new state equal this dot state dot to do's dot filter. And filter will give us to do and I want to take everything that it's different from text. Sorry for this. This is just my editor, but it's just not equal. It's just not equal. I'm sorry for that. Okay? So we take everything except the text that you are passing. And after that, now, so we can console.log. New state. Okay? So we can say hello at this one. If we click this one, if we click to do one, we only keep hello. If we click hello, we only keep to do one. If we add another thing, hello 2, we remove hello 2, we keep to do one and hello. So we take everything except that one. We filter, basically. After that, we can easily say set state. This is a set state. And we say to-dos. New to-dos. We replace it. New state. Let's call it new to-dos because it's not completely new state. Okay? So now if we go here, hello, we add it. We add test, something. If we delete to do one, we delete hello, and we delete everything.
Add it.
Now we delete all of them because they have the same text.
That's something that we should avoid.
Depends.
You can
Okay, now we can
Depends.
do an
you can
update.
make contributions.
What?
And we can do an update. for
If
the-
I have a contact list with two same name that
It depends.
It's
Here we
not
are,
text.
we should not consider the text as the unique thing. We like the last time I did.
Yeah,
We should
we
have
want
we should have IDs here,
Yeah.
and we should filter based on the ID, not the text, just to be.
I think you
like in the databases. When
Yeah, exactly. It's like an ID. Is it clear?
Yeah.
A bit?
Yeah. And that was the next homework because
Yes. That was the next homework, and you will get to do it.
Okay.
And
So-
for example, if you want to update, it's same as the delete. You should take the element and after that
Yes.
change the state
And
put
replace
in
it
the-
again.
Okay.
Can you?
But Jonas, you might copy and paste that code.
I will, but just a second. I know, but I need just to explain the homework.
Just send the code or push.
I will.
Push an embed with.
I will. Homework. By the way, I remember I met you like twice or something in the library, in the public library. You were study group.
Yeah,
So usually I work in the city center, so I'm available if you need me during the week.
Oh yeah, I remember that I went to
Yes.
Copenhagen JS.
Yes, I work only there. So if you need me during the week, you can actually
Come by?
Come by to the public library and do that. No, I'm not saying now. It's like I'm just saying that.
During the week.
But
During the
you
week,
go to,
you- yeah.
to work in the library.
No. I can meet with you. That's fine. I can take 2 hours, 3 hours from work.
Okay, that's good.
So now
It wasn't on the Copenhagen JS.
the homework is to have this.
Bullshit.
So instead of having just text, you will have an array of to-dos, and each to-do will have ID, description, done, rest.
I've done
Just-
the status as well.
Yes. So this is basically it. And you will implement the list like this. You do add, and you will add to the list. And you will not have a delete, you will have a checkbox here.
Yeah.
I would say you can delete. If you want to get extra challenge, you can make it a checkbox
Yeah.
with class name and stuff.
Yeah.
But you can just do a delete. Okay? And yeah, so that's it. And when there is no items, if you delete everything, you should just check the length and say no items. You remember? And add the delete feature to your delete. So this one should be inverted actually. It should be add the delete and only add the checkbox if you can do that. So this is the homework, and this is some stuff about binding in JavaScript. some guides if you want to really get diving, because it gets into interviews a lot. They ask it a lot, and this is the course in Egghead. I think it's for free. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in Egghead. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. If you have any question, as I said, or something, just shoot out.
So much for today.